We want to bring into this conversation NBC News political analyst and conservative host, The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network, Hugh Hewitt, and former press secretary to President Obama, NBC News political analyst Robert Gibbs. Hugh, first, join this conversation, if you will. I don't know if you heard the entire statement from the president, but it does not make specific allegations of election fraud, like some of what we heard from the president earlier, and reads more as an aspiration for a better election system. What's your read? Is the president now preparing for a graceful way to exit some of his allegations?
I don't know. Allegations are not evidence, and evidence is not a verdict. And I think he realizes, as most of his supporters realize, you've got to actually have a narrative and an allegation backed up by evidence to move forward in the court. I have been going back and consulting, oddly enough, with a couple of Nixon historians about President Nixon's decision in 1960 not to contest the election. He made that decision, they tell me, after he reached the conclusion that to go further with a recall, it had begun, or a recount in Illinois, that it would injure his future more than it would help it. And he thought, I'm going to live to fight another day. If the president is looking forward, as some people have already talked about, to 2024, if he's worried about his family's future political fortunes, that may be figuring into the dialing back of the rhetoric. There's also the reality. He needs there are four battlegrounds. He needs 3 wins. Before you get to 3, you got to get to 1. There is a recount underway in Georgia, which will matter quite a lot. He's done a lot for the Republican Party in this election. He got 70 million votes. He's won big gains, or he's led to wins in the House, probably in the Senate, in the state legislatures. He got a governorship. Right now, the party is very happy with him. And so I think there is a balancing act going on. What helps the president and the party that he leads the most? If you can get 1 win somewhere, pull back to full mode, like Chuck was saying. I applaud, though, the way you've read it is exactly how I heard it, and how 70 million Trump voters heard it. That's not unreasonable. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and Robert, does this pave the way? Do you see a conversation between Joe Biden and President Trump before this day is over?
We may very well be heading toward that, Lester. I think as you see Pennsylvania getting farther and farther away from President Trump and closer to a president-elect Joe Biden, I think that's certainly in the offing. And I agree with both what Chuck and Hugh have said here. I think for Chuck saying this is about making sure that the Republican Party is surrounding you and not walking away from your statements. And I agree with Hugh that this may be about preserving your standing for another day. And I think it's an interesting development. I think it will be interesting more so to compare it if we see President Trump today. Do we hear the audibilization of a written statement, which is easier to deliver something like this in a written form, than if we see him on camera? Is he back to what we saw last night and everyone cut away from, or does he maintain where he is in this statement?
Do you sense that there's consternation in the White House right now over this very issue of how to communicate, how to express, worry about the election without burning down the House?
I would certainly think so, because I think you're preserving you're preserving 2 things, right? You are preserving for the president his reputation and his future standing. And as you said, there's no reason Republicans wouldn't be very happy with what happened broadly on election night just a few nights ago. But I think also, somebody clearly has talked to him about what the country is in need of and what the office of president is in need of. And those are really important things for the continuation of our democracy in our country.
And Hugh, this is a president who never apologizes and never backs down. And to his supporters, that's the root of his strength. In this circumstances, what will his final message be if he confronts a loss? What would you expect to hear from him? Would it be something that we would normally think of as a concession, or will he find another way?
I think he'll find another way, Lester. Making America great again can be a part of many different messages. If he decides to exit because he can't get 1 win somewhere, which would lead to the 2nd win to the 3rd, I expect him to say what Richard Nixon said in 1960, and they were friends, by the way. They were good friends. They saw each other around New York, and if Nixon were alive, he'd say to him, find a defensible line, retreat to it, and save up your powder, and glory in making the Republican Party a majority in the Senate, which I think is likely to happen. Push on with every recount, demand that recounts be fair and full, but avoid giving in to the 10%. There's a bell curve in everything. There's a bell curve in the people who voted for Donald Trump as well. The 10%, the farthest, a hardcore right wing, want him to go to the state legislatures and have them overrule the popular vote. That's crazy. That's as radical as court packing. And the Republican Party is not a radical party. It's a party of the rule of law. So I think if he wants to play to the middle of his bell curve within the Republican Party, he finds a way to say, we are going to retreat to defensible lines and continue to make America great again through the Senate and through the House. And I'll be seeing you on the campaign trail at my rallies for the next 10 years.
All right. Hugh?
10.
Lester.
Grover Cleveland.
Just